The battlefield still smoked long after the fighting had ended. Shattered machines lay scattered across the barren ground, their metal frames twisted and broken. The sky glowed red from fires that refused to die, and the silence was broken only by the crackle of flames and the distant groan of collapsing wreckage. Marcus, a lone human scavenger, moved cautiously through the ruins. He had survived by keeping his head low and avoiding both sides of the war. His battered pack clinked with tools and scraps of metal he had collected. But tonight he felt uneasy. Something or someone was out there. A sound cut through the stillness. A sharp gasp followed by a low growl. Marcus froze. He turned slowly and spotted her. Half hidden among the wreckage was an alien girl, her lavender skin smeared with dirt and blood. Her silver eyes glowed faintly, wild and sharp like those of a cornered predator. She clutched her side where a deep wound bled through torn armor. Her chest rose and fell in ragged breaths. Marcus knew her kind. She was one of the Ziari, fierce, proud, and feared across the galaxy. A single one could tear through squads of soldiers. He should have walked away. A wounded Ziari was more dangerous than a healthy one, but he didn't move. He saw her pain, her trembling hands. She was trying to push herself up, her teeth bared, but her strength was fading fast. Their eyes locked. Hers were full of defiance, daring him to come closer. His were steady, curious, almost gentle. He didn't raise a weapon. He didn't run. He only took a slow step forward. "Stay back," she snarled, her voice breaking from weakness. Marcus raised his hands in peace. "You're hurt. You'll die if no one helps." "I don't need help from a human," she spat. "Leave me." Marcus crouched, careful not to startle her, and set down his pack. "Fine, don't need it." "But I'm staying. If you want to crawl into the dark and die, that's your choice. I'll be right here." The alien girl blinked, confused by his calmness. For a moment her anger wavered, replaced by exhaustion. Her body sagged, her wound bleeding faster. Marcus opened his pack and pulled out bandages, water, and a small healing kit he'd salvaged long ago. Slowly he moved closer, watching her every twitch. She could lash out at any second, but he saw something in her eyes, something buried beneath the rage. Fear. "I'm not your enemy," Marcus said softly. "Let me mend it. Just enough so you don't bleed out." Her breathing hitched. She hated the weakness in her own body, hated the way she couldn't fight back, but she hated the thought of dying here alone even more. With a sharp exhale, she lowered her head. "Do it, but if you trick me, I'll kill you." Marcus nodded. "Fair enough." He worked quickly, cleaning the wound with water. The alien girl hissed in pain but didn't strike him. Her muscles tensed every time he touched her, her claws twitching near his arm. He wrapped the bandages firmly, using steady hands honed by years of patching up his own scrapes. When he finished, he leaned back. "There. Not perfect, but it'll hold." The girl looked down at her side, then at him. Her silver eyes softened ever so slightly, though her voice remained sharp. "Why help me?" "Humans fear us, hate us." Marcus shrugged. "I've seen enough war. Doesn't matter what you are. You're hurt. That's reason enough." She stared at him for a long moment. For the first time in her life, she didn't feel like a weapon or a monster. She felt seen. Her lips parted, her voice weaker now. "My name is Kara." Marcus gave a small smile. "Marcus!" Kara leaned back against the wreckage, her eyes fluttering shut. For the first time since the battle, she allowed herself to rest. Marcus sat beside her, his knife ready just in case, but his heart strangely calm. He had no idea why he stayed. Maybe because beneath the fierce warrior, he saw something no one else had bothered to look for. A girl, vulnerable and tired, who just needed someone to believe she was more than her scars. As the night deepened, Marcus kept watch. And though he didn't realize it yet, this small act of kindness would change both of their lives forever. The morning sun rose over the broken battlefield, casting long shadows across the twisted wreckage. Marcus stirred the small fire he had built from scraps, its smoke curling faintly into the air. He glanced at Kara. She sat a few feet away, her back against a shattered hull, her wound bandaged. Her silver eyes were open now, sharp again, but her body remained weak. She had survived the night, though barely. "You're still here," she said flatly. Marcus tore a piece of dried ration bread in half and offered it. "I said I'd stay." "Here, eat." Kara's lip curled. "Do you think I'm some helpless creature begging for scraps?" Marcus shrugged. "You're free to starve if pride tastes better." He placed the bread on a flat piece of metal between them and leaned back. Kara glared at it for a long moment. then snatched it up. She devoured it quickly, her hunger betraying her words. Marcus didn't comment. He simply handed her water next. "You confuse me, human," she muttered after swallowing. "Most of your kind fear us. They whisper monster when we pass. And you," she frowned. "You act as if I am equal." Marcus poked the fire, his voice calm. "Because you are. Equal, I mean. Maybe fiercer than me, sure. But I don't see a monster. I see someone who's bleeding, starving, and tired. Same as I've been." Kara's silver eyes softened for a heartbeat before she masked it with a snarl. "Your kindness is weakness. If you pity me, I'll repay it with claws," Marcus chuckled. "Then I'll take my chances." Before she could reply, a low rumble shook the ground. Marcus's head snapped up. Patrol. From beyond the ridge, the sound of engines grew louder, council drones scavenging what remained of the battle. Their scanners swept wide, burning through metal and ash. If they found Kara alive, they would finish what the battlefield had started. Marcus cursed under his breath and grabbed his pack. "We need to move." Kara tried to stand, but pain seared her side. She collapsed back against the hull, her pride breaking into a grimace. "Leave me. I will only slow you down." Marcus ignored her words and crouched. "Get on!" Her silver eyes widened. "You would carry me? Do you mock me?" "Not mocking, saving." He met her gaze with stubborn determination. "Now, unless you want to be roasted by drone fire, climb on." Kara hesitated, her pride warring with her survival. Finally, she gritted her teeth and allowed him to pull her onto his back. Her claws dug into his shoulders at first, but Marcus bore the weight without complaint. He moved fast, ducking through twisted wreckage as the drones swept closer. Their searchlights cut across the ground, beams of white slicing the smoke. Kara pressed her face against his shoulder, her breath uneven. "Why risk yourself? You could hide alone and live." Marcus grunted as he climbed a broken ridge. "Because leaving you here wouldn't be living. It'd be cowardice." Her chest tightened at his words. No one had ever spoken of her like that. Not as a weapon, not as a burden, just as someone worth saving. They slipped into a ravine as the drones passed overhead. Marcus pressed himself against the rocks, Kara still clinging to him. The light swept dangerously close but finally drifted away. Silence returned. Marcus exhaled and lowered her gently onto the ground. "Safe for now." Kara studied him, her silver eyes unreadable. Slowly she said, "You fight like prey, yet you speak like a leader." Marcus smirked tiredly. "Maybe I'm just too stubborn to be either." For the first time, Kara's lips twitched, not into a snarl but into the ghost of a smile. She quickly hid it, looking away. That night, Marcus rebuilt their small camp near the edge of the ravine. Kara sat quietly, her strength returning bit by bit. She watched him work, puzzled by his calmness. Finally, she asked, "Do humans always help strangers?" Marcus shook his head. "Not always. Some would have left you. Some might have even finished you off." "Then why not you?" she pressed. He looked at her across the fire. "Because when I saw you bleeding, I didn't see an enemy. I saw someone who deserved a chance. Everyone deserves at least that." Kara's throat tightened. She hated weakness, but his words slipped past her defenses. She pulled the blanket tighter around herself, whispering, "You are a fool, human, but a strange fool." Marcus chuckled and lay back against the rocks. "I'll take that as a compliment." For a long while, neither spoke. The fire crackled and the desert wind whistled through the ravine. Kara glanced at Marcus, asleep with his knife still in hand. Her chest ached, not from the wound, but from something new. For the first time in her life, she felt safe near a human. And though she would never admit it aloud, she felt a warmth she had never known before. The desert ravine stretched endlessly under the pale light of twin moons. Marcus and Kara moved carefully, always listening for the hum of council drones. Her wound was healing slowly, but each step still made her wince. Marcus adjusted his pace to match hers, though she hated the pity in it. "You slow yourself," Kara muttered, her voice sharp. "Why not leave me behind? Alone you'd move twice as fast." Marcus didn't look at her. "Because I didn't pick you up to drop you later. I told you I'm staying." Her silver eyes narrowed. She didn't understand him. Among her people, weakness was a curse. Those who fell behind were left to die. Yet this human carried her weight as if it was natural. Were left to die. Yet this human carried her weight as if it was natural. They stopped near a dry ridge at dusk. Marcus knelt, building another small fire while Kara sat against the rocks. Her pride still bristled, but hunger gnawed at her stomach. He tossed her a ration pack. "Eat, Kara caught it but stared suspiciously. What if it's poisoned? Marcus smirked faintly. If I wanted you dead, I wouldn't waste rations. I'd just walk away. That silenced her. She tore the pack open and devoured the food quickly. Marcus said nothing, only watched her with calm eyes. For reasons she couldn't explain, his silence made her chest tighten. Later, when the fire flickered low, Kara's gaze lingered on him. Why risk yourself for me? What do you gain? Marcus leaned back, staring at the stars. Nothing. Not everything has to be a trade. Sometimes, helping someone is reason enough. Kara's claws twitched against the stone. You sound weak. Maybe, Marcus replied. But maybe weakness is just what people call strength they don't understand. She fell silent. His words gnawed at her, unsettling and warm all at once. But the warmth didn't last. The silence of the desert broke with the hiss of metal shifting above. Marcus's instincts screamed. He pushed Kara down just as a net of energy bolts struck the rocks behind them, blasting shards into the air. Ambush, Marcus shouted. Figures leapt down from the ridge. Raiders, half-machine mercenaries scavenging survivors from the war. Their glowing visors locked on Kara. Target identified. Bounty is high. Take her alive, Kara snarled, forcing herself to her feet despite the pain. Her claws gleamed in the firelight. Marcus drew his knife, eyes darting between the attackers. Stay close, he barked. The raiders charged. Marcus ducked a swinging blade, slashing the attacker's arm before driving his boot into another's chest. Kara lunged, her claws ripping through armor, but her wound slowed her. A raider's strike sent her stumbling. Marcus caught her before she fell. I've got you. Her pride screamed at the touch, but her survival clung to it. Fight with me, human, she growled. Gladly. They moved as one. Marcus blocked blows, giving Kara openings. She struck with deadly precision, her claws finding gaps in armor. For the first time, they fought not as strangers, but as partners. A raider swung low at Marcus's legs. Kara darted in front, her claws deflecting the blade. The move left her wound open, but Marcus pulled her back, his knife flashing across the raider's throat. Blood and sparks sprayed the sand. The last mercenary, seeing his comrades fall, fled into the dunes. Breathing hard, Marcus crouched beside Kara. You all right? Her chest heaved, but her silver eyes burned fiercely. I fought slower than I should. I was weak. Marcus shook his head firmly.
You weren't weak.
You stood. You fought. That's strength. She looked at him, confused. No one had ever called her strong for struggling. Among her people, hesitation was shame. But this human, he saw something else. As the fire died, Kara sat closer to Marcus than before. She didn't thank him. Her pride wouldn't allow it, but her silence spoke enough. For the first time, she wasn't guarding herself against him. Marcus leaned back, gazing at the stars. See, you don't have to be fierce all the time. Sometimes letting someone fight with you isn't weakness, it's trust. Kara's silver eyes lingered on him. Her lips parted, but no words came. She only lowered her head, her claws curling softly against the sand. That night she slept beside him, her breathing calm for the first time since he'd found her. And though she would never admit it, a part of her, the part buried beneath scars and rage, felt something she hadn't felt in years. Safe. The desert sun rose high, painting the dunes in gold and white. Marcus and Kara moved slowly across the sand, their shadows long behind them. Her wound was healing, though every step still tugged at the bandages. Marcus walked slightly ahead, scanning the horizon with careful eyes, his knife always close at hand. Kara's pride kept her from complaining, but her breathing betrayed her fatigue. Marcus glanced back. You're slowing. We should rest. I do not need rest, she muttered stubbornly. Yet her legs wobbled, and when Marcus stopped and crouched, she sank down beside him without protest. He offered her water. She took it without hesitation this time, her claws brushing against his hand as she grabbed the flask. The touch lingered longer than necessary, and she pulled back quickly, unsettled. Why are you always watching me? She asked. Because you're important, Marcus said simply. Kara scoffed. Important? I was abandoned after the battle. My people left me for dead. What value does a discarded warrior have? Marcus leaned forward, his gaze steady. The same value anyone has. You breathe, you fight, you hope. That's enough. You matter because you're alive. Her chest tightened at his words. She turned her face away, hiding the flicker of softness in her silver eyes. For so long, she had only been treated as a weapon or a threat. Yet here was a human insisting she was more than either. The silence stretched between them until Kara broke it. When you bandaged me, no one had ever touched me with care before, not even my own kind. Her voice was low, fragile. Why would you? Marcus thought for a moment. Because you deserved it. Everyone deserves at least one person who sees them as more than their scars. Kara's lips parted, but no sound came. She dropped her gaze, her claws curling softly against the sand. For the first time, her fierce mask cracked, and Marcus glimpsed the girl beneath, the one who longed to be seen as something more than a warrior. That night, as the desert cooled and the stars filled the sky, Marcus built another small fire. Kara sat closer than usual, her body turned slightly toward him. Her silver eyes followed the flames, but every so often they flicked to his face. Finally, she asked, Marcus, do humans ever fear themselves? He chuckled softly. All the time. We're good at it. Strange, she whispered. My kind are taught to fear nothing. To show fear is weakness, but now, I think fear is not always bad. It tells you when something matters. Marcus tilted his head. You mean you're afraid of something now? Her gaze met his. Of losing this. The word startled her as much as him. She turned away quickly, ashamed of the admission. But Marcus didn't laugh, didn't mock. He only said gently, Then we'll fight to keep it. Kara's heart thudded, and for the first time since her wound, she allowed herself to relax fully. She leaned her head against his shoulder, her fierce posture melting into something almost tender. Marcus didn't move away. He simply let her rest, the weight of her trust heavier than any burden he had carried. But peace was short-lived. In the distance, a sharp light cut across the dunes, a signal flare. Marcus's eyes narrowed. They've found us. Kara jerked upright, her claws flexing. Council hunters. Within minutes, dark shapes appeared on the horizon, moving swiftly across the sand. Enforcers on hovercraft, their banners trailing like shadows. Their voices carried faintly in the dry air. Bring the alien girl alive. Kill the human if necessary. Marcus stood, pulling Kara to her feet. Run, she clenched her fist. I will not flee again. Then we make a stand, Marcus said firmly. They scrambled up a ridge, sand slipping beneath their boots. The hunters closed in fast, their weapons glinting under the moonlight. Kara's chest burned with fear, not for herself but for him. Marcus planted himself at the ridge's peak, knife in hand, eyes locked on the approaching force. He wasn't afraid. Not when she was beside him. Kara's claws shimmered faintly in the starlight, her wound aching but her resolve strong. She glanced at him, her voice trembling. If I fall, you won't, Marcus cut in. Not while I'm here. Something shifted inside her then. For the first time, she believed him completely. The fierce warrior who had once snarled at everyone now felt like a gentle kitten at his side, protected, safe and willing to fight not out of pride, but out of loyalty. As the council hunters rushed forward, Marcus and Kara stood shoulder to shoulder, ready to face whatever came next. And in her silver eyes, the fire of defiance burned brighter than ever. The hunters' hovercraft tore across the dunes, engines howling like beasts. Dust clouds rose in their wake, and the air shimmered with heat from their plasma rifles. Marcus stood at the ridge, knife in hand, every muscle tense. Beside him, Kara's claws glowed faintly in the moonlight, her wound still aching but her spirit unbroken. Stay behind me, Marcus muttered. Kara's silver eyes narrowed. No, I fight with you. The hunters dismounted in perfect formation. Their leader, cloaked in black armor, raised a hand. Surrender the alien girl. The council decrees her dangerous. The human may leave unharmed. Marcus barked a humorless laugh. Not happening. The leader's visor gleamed. Then you die with her. The hunters surged forward. Plasma bolts lit up the night, searing the sand. Marcus pulled Kara down as blasts ripped past them, the air sizzling. He rolled, rose to his feet, and charged with a roar. His knife flashed, slashing across the first hunter's throat. Kara leapt beside him, her claws ripping through armor like paper. Her wound burned, slowing her movements, but rage fueled her strikes. She tore through two hunters in a blur, her chest heaving. Marcus fought with raw grit. He wasn't the fastest nor the strongest, but he never yielded. Every strike was placed to protect Kara's flank. Twice he shoved her aside from incoming fire, taking burns across his arm and shoulder. Incoming fire, taking burns across his arm and shoulder. Marcus! Kara cried, seeing the blood. Focus! He shouted, his teeth clenched in pain. The hunters regrouped, circling them. The leader raised his weapon, aiming at Marcus. Kara lunged, intercepting the blast. The energy seared her side, reopening her wound. She screamed, collapsing to her knees. Marcus's fury exploded. He hurled himself at the leader, tackling him into the sand. They rolled, fist slamming, blades clashing. The hunter's armored gauntlet struck Marcus's face, splitting his lip. But Marcus drove his knife up under the visor, twisting until sparks erupted. The leader convulsed and fell still. The other hunters faltered. Kara, struggling to rise, glared at them through pain. "Leave," she hissed, her voice trembling but powerful. "Or I will kill every last one of you." Her silver eyes burned with such intensity that even hardened soldiers hesitated. One by one they retreated, dragging their wounded and fallen onto their craft. Engines roared as they fled into the dunes, leaving silence in their wake. Marcus staggered back to Kara, his knife dripping with blackened oil and blood. He dropped to his knees, pulling her into his arms. "Kara, stay with me," she gasped, her claws clutching his chest weakly. "You fool. You risked everything." "Yeah," he whispered, brushing dirt and blood from her face. "Because you're worth everything." Her silver eyes softened, shimmering with tears she didn't know she could shed. "No one has ever said that to me." Marcus pressed his forehead against hers, his voice rough. "Then hear it now. You're not just some fierce weapon. You're Kara. And you matter to me." For the first time in her life, the warrior girl who had only known rage and survival melted. She leaned into him, her breathing uneven but calmer, her sharpness fading into gentleness. In that moment, she wasn't a predator. She was fragile, tender. A gentle kitten clinging to the only person who had ever seen her for more than her claws. They sat together under the starlight, the battlefield quiet once more. Marcus tightened the bandages on her wound, his hand steady despite his own injuries. Kara watched him, her gaze soft. "You fight like prey," she whispered, echoing her old words. "But your heart, it is stronger than any hunter." Marcus smiled faintly, exhausted but unyielding. "And you're not just fierce. You're more. Don't forget that." Kara rested her head against his shoulder. "Then I will stay with you, always." For the first time, the girl who had once snarled at the world allowed herself to purr softly, her gentleness blooming like a secret she no longer had to hide. But high above, unseen in the desert night, council ships watched from orbit. The hunter's defeat had been reported, and the council would not forgive. The true storm was only beginning. The desert winds howled long into the night, carrying with them the faint echo of engines fading into the distance. Marcus and Kara, bruised and battered, staggered across the dunes until they found shelter in the hollow remains of an abandoned outpost. Half buried in sand, its walls cracked but still standing. Inside, the air was cool and heavy with dust. Marcus lowered Kara carefully onto a metal bench, his own body trembling with fatigue. He collapsed onto the floor beside her, his arm bleeding freely where a plasma bolt had grazed him. Kara's silver eyes flicked to the wound. For the first time, she reached out, not with claws but with gentle fingers. "You bleed," she whispered. Marcus chuckled weakly. "So do you." Instead of snapping back, she tore fabric from her own armor and pressed it against his wound. Her hands, once made for killing, now trembled with care. "You saved me again. Foolish human." "Maybe," Marcus murmured, leaning back against the wall. "But I'd do it again." Every time, her throat tightened. For years, Kara had believed gentleness was weakness, a flaw that would get her killed. Yet here was Marcus, wounded and stubborn, showing her that gentleness could be strength too. She lowered her gaze. "When you touched me before, I thought you mocked me. Now, I think you heal more than just wounds." Marcus turned his head toward her, his eyes heavy with exhaustion but still soft. "And you're not the monster everyone says you are. You're more than that. You've always been more." Kara's chest ached with something she couldn't name. She leaned closer, resting her head against his shoulder. For a long while, neither spoke. The silence between them wasn't cold, it was warm, like a fragile thread binding them together. The outpost groaned as the desert wind pushed against it. But inside, for the first time in days, Kara allowed herself to close her eyes. She felt safe. Marcus kept watch until his own body gave in to sleep. At dawn, Kara stirred awake to the sound of Marcus coughing. His wound had worsened overnight, the bandage soaked with blood.
Panic surged in her chest. "No," she hissed.
"You can't fall now. Not after everything." She searched the outpost, her claws scraping through old crates until she found a half-broken medkit. With clumsy fingers, she cleaned his wound and rewrapped it. Each time he winced, she whispered words in her own language, soft, melodic sounds meant to soothe. Marcus blinked, half-conscious. "What are you saying?" Kara looked down, embarrassed. "A word that my people use. It means precious one. I never thought I'd use it on a human." Marcus smiled faintly, eyes fluttering shut. "I'll take it." For hours, Kara stayed at his side, guarding him as he had guarded her. Every sound outside made her claws twitch, but she didn't move. For once, she wasn't thinking of survival for herself. She was thinking only of him. Far above, in the towering spires of the council's capital, rage boiled. Reports of the hunter's defeat spread like wildfire. The High Counselor slammed his fist against the table. "A wounded alien girl and a single human brought shame to our forces. This cannot stand," another counselor hissed. "They will inspire others if they live." Already whispers spread in the outer colonies, of a fierce warrior softened by human compassion. The council chamber buzzed with unease. The High Counselor's eyes burned. "Then we will make an example of them. Send the purge ships. Burn the desert if you must. Leave nothing alive." The order was sealed. Across orbit, engines roared to life. Back in the outpost, Marcus stirred awake, his breathing steadier, his eyes open to see Kara hovering above him, her claws resting gently against his chest. "You stayed?" he murmured. She tilted her head. "Where else would I go?" Marcus reached up, brushing her cheek with trembling fingers. "You're gentler than you think, Kara." She froze at the touch, her fierce mask crumbling. Slowly, she leaned into his hand, her silver eyes glistening. "Because of you." For the first time in her life, Kara purred softly, the sound low and warm, filling the outpost with something it had never held before. Peace. But outside, the sands trembled. The purge fleet was coming, its shadows stretching across the horizon. The storm had found them. The sky cracked with thunder as the purge fleet descended. Shadows of massive warships spread across the desert, their engines roaring like storms. From their bellies, drop pods rained down, slamming into the sand with deafening force. The ground trembled beneath Marcus and Kara as the outpost shuddered around them. Marcus tightened the straps of his knife sheath, his arm still bandaged but steady. Beside him, Kara rose slowly to her feet, her wound aching but her claws glowing faintly with renewed strength. "They've sent an army," Marcus muttered, eyes narrowing at the endless swarm of soldiers pouring from the pods. Kara's silver eyes burned with fire. "Then we show them that two can stand against many." She glanced at him, hesitation flickering in her voice. "But Marcus, if I fall—" "You won't," he cut her off, his tone firm. "Not while I'm here." Her chest tightened. For the first time, she didn't argue. She simply nodded, her heart steady with trust. The first wave hit the outpost like a storm. Enforcers swarmed through broken walls, plasma rifles blazing. Marcus ducked behind a crumbling pillar, knife flashing as he cut one soldier down and grabbed the fallen rifle. He fired into the crowd, every shot precise, every move to keep Kara covered. Kara leapt into the fray, claws tearing through armor with furious grace. She moved like lightning, her body trembling with pain but refusing to yield. Each strike was wild yet purposeful, her rage no longer blind but focused. Marcus shouted, "Left!" Kara spun, slashing down an enforcer sneaking behind her. She shot him a fierce grin before charging forward again. For the first time, they fought not as protector and burden, but as equals, two warriors bound by something stronger than fear. The second wave came with heavier weapons, cannons that shook the outpost's walls. Explosions lit up the sky, sand and debris raining down. Marcus dragged Kara behind cover, shielding her with his body as a blast tore through the wall. "Marcus," she cried, seeing the burns across his back. He gritted his teeth but smiled through the pain. Still breathing, her eyes glistened with fury and fear. "Why do you keep throwing yourself in front of me?" "Because I'd rather take the hit than lose you." "Because I'd rather take the hit than lose you." Her heart broke and healed in the same instant. She had never been anyone's precious one, but to him she was, and she would not let him fall. The third wave brought the commander of the Purge fleet, clad in black armor that gleamed under the flames. His voice boomed across the battlefield. "The alien girl is dangerous. The human is weak. End them both," Kara snarled, stepping forward despite her wound. "I am not dangerous because of what I am. I am dangerous because you made me fight to live. And now I fight for him." The commander raised his blade. Marcus tightened his grip on the rifle, standing shoulder to shoulder with her. Then let's end this together. They clashed. The commander's strikes were brutal, each swing shaking Kara to her core. Marcus darted in, blocking with his knife, firing shots into weak points in the armor. Kara struck high, her claws slicing across exposed joints. The commander roared, slamming Marcus into the wall. Pain seared through him. But Kara's scream tore the night apart. She launched herself at the commander, claws glowing brighter than ever, fueled by everything she had endured. "You will not take him from me," she cried. With one final strike, her claws pierced through the commander's chest plate, ripping into the core beneath. Sparks erupted. The commander staggered, choking on fury before collapsing into the sand. Silence followed. The remaining enforcers froze, their leader fallen. Slowly, one by one, they retreated back to their pods. The purge fleet above shifted course, their engines dimming as they withdrew. The battle was over. Kara collapsed to her knees, trembling, her claws coated in blood and sparks. Marcus stumbled toward her, falling beside her with a groan. They leaned against each other, battered but alive. Her silver eyes softened, her voice breaking. "Marcus, I was once only fierce, nothing more. But you—" She pressed her forehead against his. "You taught me gentleness. You made me more than what I was." Marcus cupped her face with trembling hands. "And you showed me what strength really is. Not claws. Not weapons, heart." Kara purred softly, her sound vibrating through the silence. For the first time, she didn't feel like a weapon or a monster. She felt whole. The desert wind swept across the ruined outpost, carrying away the ashes of battle. In its place, something new took root, a bond forged in fire and sealed in trust. Together, human and alien walked into the dawn, side by side. Fierce and gentle, broken and healed. Alone, they had been scraps in the galaxy's chaos. But together, they were something unstoppable. And though the council still watched from the shadows, whispering of vengeance, Marcus and Kara knew one truth. Whatever storms came, they would face them. Not as enemies, not as strangers, but as family. The desert was quiet again, the roar of engines fading beyond the horizon. Only smoke and silence remained in the ruins of the outpost. Marcus and Kara sat together among the shattered walls, their wounds bound, their breathing heavy but calm. The purge fleet had retreated, yet both knew this was only the beginning. Kara leaned her head against Marcus's shoulder, her silver eyes half-lidded. "They will come again," she murmured. Marcus tightened his arm around her. "Then we'll be ready, together." For a long moment they said nothing. The wind whistled through the broken metal, carrying with it the scent of ash and blood. Yet under it all there was a strange peace, like the calm after a storm. At dawn they left the outpost behind. Marcus walked steady despite his injuries, his knife strapped across his back. Kara's claws flexed with every step, but she stayed close at his side. For the first time in her life, she didn't feel the need to walk ahead or behind. She walked with someone. They crossed the dunes until the sun blazed high. On the horizon, Marcus spotted a cluster of ruins, once a settlement, now abandoned. "We can shelter there," he said. Inside they found crumbling houses overtaken by sand, but still enough walls to keep out the desert winds. Marcus began patching holes with scrap, while Kara scavenged for anything useful. At one point she returned with a handful of old blankets, holding them almost proudly. Marcus chuckled. "Not bad. Guess we're building a home." Her silver eyes softened. "A home," she repeated quietly, as if the word itself was foreign. That night, Kara curled up near him by the fire, her body relaxed in a way Marcus had never seen. She purred softly, the sound low and warm, and whispered, "I was never gentle before you. You made me something else." Marcus brushed her hair back with careful fingers. "No, Kara, that was always inside you. You just needed someone to remind you." She closed her eyes, a faint smile curving her lips. But while they rested far above, the council seethed. The High Counselor stood at the center of the grand chamber, his voice sharp as steel. "Twice now she has survived. A single human defied our fleets, and whispers spread through the colonies of an alien girl who found her strength through him." Other counselors murmured nervously. Already rumors were growing, slaves refusing orders, soldiers questioning commands. The story of Kara and Marcus had become more than survival. It had become hope. The High Counselor's eyes burned with fury. "If they rise together, our rule will fall. Prepare the assassins. Silence them before their bond infects the galaxy." Back on the desert world, days turned into weeks. Marcus and Kara built their refuge piece by piece. He taught her how to set traps for food, how to mend old tools. She, in turn, taught him her language, her words sharp and melodic. One evening, as the stars stretched endless above them, Kara sat close, her claws resting lightly against his hand. I was fierce because I had nothing else. But now, she tilted her head, silver eyes glowing softly. Now I am gentle because I choose to be. With you, Marcus smiled, pulling her hand closer. And I'm stronger because you're here, she purred again, leaning against him. For a moment it felt as though the galaxy itself had stilled, leaving only the two of them. But in the distance, shadows moved. Mercenaries, assassins, and spies sent by the Council. The peace they had built was fragile, their little home always under threat. Kara knew it. Marcus knew it. And yet neither flinched, because what they had found was worth fighting for. The fierce alien girl who once bared her claws at the world now lay gently at the side of a human who had mended her wounds, body and soul. Together they had turned fear into trust, rage into love, and survival into something more. The galaxy whispered their names quietly at first, but louder each day. And in the end, no fleet, no council, and no army could silence the truth they carried. That even in the darkest corners of space, compassion could turn warriors into kittens, and strangers into family. And so under the starlight, they rested, not as prey and predator, not as alien and human, but as two souls who had found each other in the chaos. The war would return. The council would strike again. But whatever storms came, Marcus and Kara would face them together, for in each other they had found the one thing the galaxy could never take away. Home. Home.